So,
So you
what's
want us
on
to talk about Warhammer?
what's on the schedule? I mean, once I get going, I'll get going. But it's you want to talk about Warhammer as well?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Hmm.
I need another week before I can do, or at least another week before I can do anime 3x3 because I watched one of the things that was on the 3x3 and I was like, oh, this is actually kind of bad.
Are you willing to reveal what that thing was?
Yeah, it was Gunbuster.
What is that? Is that's an older one, right?
It is, yeah, I think
I
it's
think I remember the
an
name.
80s OVA.
Okay.
So it's from Gainax, however
Mm.
you say it.
Mm.
Um,
Gainax.
Before they did um, Evangelion, they
Yeah.
did this.
Mm.
Yeah. And this sort of, I guess, codified a lot of the tropes that appeared in their later stuff, but
Mm.
it doesn't really hold up, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird one because I was talking to someone about Ghibli movies, and
Mm,
I think the first Studio Ghibli movie was Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind,
mm,
or just Nausicaa, as most people call it. And that was released in the late '80s, and you watch that, and well, at least when I watched it, I remember thinking, this is this animation's better than most things today. This is amazing, and it held up really well.
mm.
So
Was that the original, or did you watch some sort of digitally restored version?
no, this was the original, I believe. It was on
All right.
Netflix. Netflix
Mm.
bought the rights to most of the Ghibli movies, at least in the
Okay.
UK. So I watched it during lockdown, and
Mm,
it was really 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 good.
mm.
So I think some '80s animation is terrible and janky and just like you say, it doesn't hold up. But I think some of it's still quite good. Um,
Oh, it wasn't the animation that didn't hold up. It was just
mm.
a lot of the other stuff.
Oh, the what are the story?
So the story's okay. I mean, it's a tiny bit fast because it's only 6 episodes,
Mm-hmm.
and they're only 24, 25 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
But just a lot of the, well, elements that we would now call fan service.
Ah,
Except you just watch it and you just sort of, I don't know, you cringe a bit and you're like,
yeah.
I get that this is one of the greats, but also, it's
Yeah,
uh, it's
yeah,
not the 80s anymore.
yeah. I've never been a fan of anime that has lots and lots of fan service. I always end up after the first or second episode thinking, what's the point of this? I don't want to see this. Can I just see a decent story, please? You don't need to show me,
Mm.
scantily clad characters every 5 minutes to keep my attention. Um,
Unless it's High School of the Dead, in which case you get a free pass.
Here's the confession time. Um, I have watched High School of the Dead, but in
Hmm.
my defense, this was when I was a teenager, and I think it was around the time it came out. And I think I must have watched. I don't think I watched it all the way to the end, but must have watched maybe 7 to 8 episodes.
Mm.
And I there's okay. So I'm just going to be upfront, but not too explicit. There is a scene where it's a guy, right, who's the best sniper in the group.
Oh, I know the scene. I know
Yeah,
the
so
scene.
we should explain what High School of the Dead is. High School of the Dead is a anime that chronicles a zombie apocalypse and how a group of high schoolers who just happen to be talented at survival, most of them anyway, get through that apocalypse, and it has um, fan service elements in it, a lot of fan service elements. But when I was watching it as a teenager, I thought after the first episode, when you see a bit of fan service, you're like, oh, okay, that's weird. This started off interesting. Zombies, these people can fight back,
Mm.
but okay. Then it got to the scene where the guy who is the best sniper in the group, uh, if I remember correctly, uses the breasts of another student to stabilize his sniper rifle.
Well, what else can you do? He doesn't have a bipod. There's clearly no other alternatives.
And as he fires each shot, they animated this exaggerated jiggle, and I just remember thinking, what's going on here? This is no longer fun. Yeah, High School of the Dead is I think that's a legendary one amongst fan service anime, in that a lot of people really enjoy it and think that it's quite good, fan service aside. Does the silence mean that you're an enjoyer?
I mean, I am an enjoyer, but also it only works because at no point does it take itself seriously.
Mm, mm.
If it tried to be serious, it wouldn't work at all.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. I think there's also another. Well, it's not a fan service, and I don't think it's been turned into an anime yet. But there's a manga called I Am a Hero, or something like that.
Oh yeah, I started reading that,
Yeah.
and then I never finished it.
Mm.
Was that a fan service manga?
Not.
I don't think it was really.
Not from what I remember. From what I know of it, it's more so just your regular seinen without too much fan service. It's not Gantz. It doesn't get to the cliff and then just swan dive over it. It's not like that. It's a relatively reasonable series. How did we get onto fan service in anime?
Oh no, I said that one of my shows was getting removed from my 9x9. It'll have to be replaced.
Yeah.
But anyway, Warhammer. Perhaps you would like to say how you got into Warhammer.
Well, in order for me to say how I got into Warhammer, you need to explain how you got into Warhammer, because I got into Warhammer because of you.
All right. So I got into it when I went to a friend's house, and they had the early 2000s product catalog for all of Games Workshop stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it was one of the nice ones where it had color images of dioramas and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so after a few weeks of poring over those together, eventually I was visiting my granny, and we were in town. And it turns out there was a Games Workshop in the town we were in. So we went in there, and I bought my first model. I was probably about 6 or 7. So, don't have the disposable income to be a Warhammer player. And funnily enough, I actually repainted that model yesterday. So it now has a fittingly good paint job. But yeah, so then I was probably buying and painting, poorly painting, mind you, miniatures for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I fell out of the hobby, the miniature hobby, until maybe it would have been 2018 when I got back into it. That was the year I was working at Asda. So I had a bit of money. And since then I've stayed into it. But I would like to just clarify, Warhammer is not a hobby. Miniatures is a hobby. Warhammer is a brand.
We have an elitist over here. Ooh. Yeah, no, I think I agree with you. I think a lot of Warhammer fans don't realize or don't want to acknowledge that the miniatures are the hobby, and that there are many companies that make miniatures. But yeah, and from everything that I've seen, as far as it comes to Warhammer, there are really 3 types of people: the people that are into the miniatures and painting, the people that are into the lore, and then so they read the books and scour the Wikipedia entries and everything like that. And then there are the psychos who seem to think that Warhammer is a good property from which you should develop your beliefs. There are some real Imperium enjoyers out there.
There are.
But as far as how I got into Warhammer, as I was thinking about this episode and how you got me into Warhammer, I had a bit of a realization, which is that I remember in secondary school, in our library, there was this book that had what I think was an Inquisitor on the front of it, with the benefit of hindsight. She had the pointed hat and the
like a witch hunter type person.
Yeah, like a witch hunter type person, and she had the sort of classic. The picture at the front of the book was classic Warhammer grimdark, and I remember looking at that as a kid and thinking, this is hardcore. Why is this in the library? This is a bit aggressive. Maybe aggressive is not the right word, but it was quite a visual. So that was my very first exposure to Warhammer. But as far as getting into Warhammer, that was you. After we paid homage by going to Games Workshop, their main headquarters in Nottingham. So I got into Warhammer because of you, and now I really enjoy it. Not so much the miniature side of it. I'm more of the lore. One of the lore guys. I find the universe of Warhammer fascinating, and it may be one of the best created universes in any medium ever, really. I mean, if you think about it, there's 4 decades now of books and miniature guides and guides for the miniature tabletop game. Just so much content over decades that have built up this rich universe that I think is actually quite underrated. And maybe it's because it hasn't had a TV show or a movie like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or some of these properties that your everyday person walking around on the street will recognize. But I think you can argue that it's better than those properties simply because there's just so much more of the universe out there for people to read about and take in than there is for series like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. I love it. I think it's great.
I mean, I know that Star Wars had a pretty substantial expanded universe. I don't know how big it was, but I'll assume it wasn't.
Yeah,
like
so
the Black Library.
So I had a friend who was really into Star Wars, and what he told me is that once Disney acquired the rights to Star Wars, they created this distinction between all of the books and comics that they were going to publish versus all of the sort of extended universe books and comics that you just mentioned that came before their acquisition of Lucasfilm. And so what they did is that everything that came before their acquisition, they now call, I believe, legends. So they say, okay, this stuff exists, but within the Star Wars universe, it's not canon. These are stories and myths that maybe the people within the Star Wars universe talk about, but they're no longer canon to the universe that we've now taken over. And so they created their own canon now of comic books and books and extended media that's now the real stuff, essentially. But I don't think I would go out on a limb and say that the Star Wars books and comics have never been as popular as the Warhammer books and comics. I think most of the fandom for Star Wars comes from the movies or the toys or the games, but I don't think there's a big audience out there for Star Wars comics and books in the same way that there is for Warhammer.
Probably not as it stands currently. Yeah.
Right. So, I have some questions to pick apart your love of Warhammer. The first question, and this is something of a purity test. Okay, so your answers are being actively judged. Be prepared. So,
of course.
The first question. The Warhammer universe is obviously composed of lots of different factions. In fact, there are factions within factions. The humans have factions. The orcs have factions, etc., etc., etc. What is your favorite faction in Warhammer, and why?
So,
don't you dare say the orcs.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Oh, good. Good.
No, so I'd probably say my favorite faction is they're now called the Astra Militarum, but to me they're the Imperial Guard, and they're just sort of normal dudes, army men in space. But for some context, the order of armies I collected, I started with Space Marines, and then I dabbled in Eldar, and then I dabbled in Tau, and then I finally settled on the Imperial Guard. But yeah, I mean, it's not like a very hard set thing. I mean, I think it's probably more telling if you ask me what my least favorite faction is.
Oh, that's the next question. You want to go into that? Go on, man. Unleash.
Well, I don't actually have an answer, but my gut feeling is probably some flavor of demons.
You're not a Slaanesh enjoyer?
I'm not really a Slaanesh enjoyer. And why is that? I don't know. I feel like they're like a micro army. Like, you said factions within factions.
Yeah.
But when I started it would have been 4th edition.
Oh, you're an OG.
Not quite. But when I started, I think they may have been following on from the rules of late 3rd edition.
Yeah.
But in any case, all of Chaos was able to be deployed as one army.
Yeah.
And the primary flavor of Chaos was just Chaos Undivided, which is sort of a catch-all for every type of Chaos.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting angle to approach it from, because obviously I've never been involved in the tabletop side of the of Warhammer, so I have no insight into these things. So no, that's interesting that you're not a big fan of Slaanesh, which is the best Chaos God, because it kind of split up split up Chaos. Chaos is 4 factions now. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Who's your favorite character in Warhammer?
So he's probably not any. I wouldn't pick anyone from any of the books I've read. Any of the codexes I've read. It would be from one of the books. So it's probably a toss up between. So there's 3, either Eisenhorn, or Ravener, or Ravener, whatever he's called, or of course, Caiaphas Cain.
I feel like these are all characters that most Warhammer enthusiasts would know, but there's no curveball here. There's no that Sherlock character you mentioned to me before.
Oh, okay. So I actually don't know about this because, as far as I'm aware, by the time I'd got into it, he'd already been removed, expunged as part of a shameful past. But you're talking about Obiwan, Sherlock, Clousseau.
Yes, yes, I am.
You should take a moment to Google an image of this man.
Oh, okay. I will Google Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan Sherlock. Obi-Wan Sherlock Clousseau. Oh wow. Wow.
So you should see a black and white image of a man with a yin-yang symbol.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Is this official?
Yeah, that is official. Yeah. It's slightly cursed
it is,
and very hellish.
it's not even slightly. It's really bad. I think retconning Obi-Wan Sherlock Clousseau was a good idea by Games Workshop.
Mm-hmm.
He was just too powerful. His inquisitorial abilities could not be stopped. For the sake of
So I actually don't know anything about him other than the fact that he's just multiple characters mashed together.
I mean, with a name like that, he had to be a powerful character. You know those scenarios where writers will create a character that's just so powerful that or just such a Mary Sue that they essentially destroy your story, because the way they're written, they'll solve every problem, they'll beat every foe. That's Obi-Wan Sherlock Clousseau.
I mean, with a name like that, you've got to imagine that's probably what he was about.
Exactly. No, that's a terrible drawing. That's really bad. But no, I think Eisenhorn, Caiaphas Cain, and Ravener. Those are all characters. Those are all really popular characters within the verse. Actually.
And also, all of those books are, in my opinion, perfectly acceptable entry points into the lore.
Yeah, but the problem with the lore, with the lore of Warhammer, and with encouraging people to dive into the lore of Warhammer, is that I always worry if there's someone who really enjoys reading books, and really enjoys the Warhammer universe, you're basically introducing them to crack cocaine.
It is a bit of a financial death sentence if they enjoy it.
Yeah. They will get into it, and they'll keep buying, and Games Workshop will become their dealer. Except Games Workshop has no sympathy for them. They will not reduce their prices. They will just keep releasing new material, new good stuff, and it will be a vicious cycle. But those are great choices. Who's your least favorite character, and why is it Abaddon?
It's not even Abaddon. It's Lucius the Eternal.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good shout.
Because his whole thing is he's a duelist, but the only reason he persists is because he's got like a god granted ability.
Yeah, and it's kind of universe breaking is too strong a term to use, but it's broken. It's a broken ability. So Lucius the Eternal, for anyone who doesn't know, is a Emperor's children space marine, right?
Yeah.
Well, he was, and then once the Emperor's children turned to chaos, Slanesh, the god of
excess,
the god of excess. Well, anyway, that chaos god granted him the ability to, and you'll have to help me explain this, but essentially, if someone kills him, and that person takes any amount of pride or satisfaction in killing him, they will then turn into him. That's correct, right?
Yeah. I don't know if they like biologically become him or if he just like possesses them. But either way, he returns from beyond the grave. But I mean, what can you do with that? Like,
exactly.
There's no satisfying story to be had there.
Yeah, there's no. Yeah, he's essentially unbeatable. Yeah. I know that makes sense. But you hate the character more so for the mechanism around the character than the character itself, right?
Yeah, I actually don't know anything about his personality.
Yeah.
I assume he doesn't really have one because he's a Chaos Space Marine.
Yeah.
So his personality is probably lol, I'm insane. But his actual model is not bad.
Yeah, I mean his model looks brutal, but the mechanism around the character is terrible. No, Chaos Space Marines aren't insane. They're right. The Emperor's alive.
Of course.
He must be destroyed. So
what about you? Least favorite character?
Least favorite character, Abaddon. the despoiler. And the reason I hate Abaddon is because I think he's a character that doesn't make much sense at this point in the story. He's essentially as powerful as a Primarch. But he doesn't do anything of any significance, really. They keep black crusading and black crusading and black crusading, but they haven't achieved anything, except maybe splitting the universe in half. But their goal is to kill the Emperor, but they've gotten nowhere near it. And I also dislike Abaddon because he killed Sigismund, who is one of the best characters in the entirety of Warhammer 40k. And he killed Sigismund in a way that was written to make no sense. So Sigismund basically killed him, but Abaddon survived because of chaos. And then he ripped Sigismund in half. I'm like, what? What? No. Abaddon's...
So I don't really know anything about this other than I read like a blow-by-blow account.
Yeah.
But I don't know the context really.
So the context is pretty badass, and this is why Sigismund isn't my favorite character in Warhammer 40k, but he's up there. So the context is Abaddon and the Black Legion had been crusading, and they got pushed back into the Eye of Terror. And instead of saying, "Okay, great, let's celebrate. We defeated the Chaos Space Marines. Let's go celebrate and go deal with other problems that the Imperium is facing in other parts of its empire." Sigismund, like an absolute animal, decides, "No, I'm not going to leave the Eye of Terror. I'm going to me and my personal Space Marines. We're going to wait here until he comes out again." So he's like,
they're gonna spawn camp it.
Yeah, he's like, you don't understand. I'm killing this guy. Even if I have to spawn camp, I'm getting him. So eventually, Abaddon comes out and is like, oh, okay. I didn't see this coming, and so Abaddon and Sigismund fight. And it's a great scene because when they first meet, Abaddon's all excited to see Sigismund, like some kind of old friend. And then Sigismund says something like, I do not suffer the unclean to live, or something. like, oh, it's hilarious. Abaddon's like, oh, it's great to see you again, and Sigismund's like, no, I'm going to kill you, dude. I've been waiting for this. What are you talking about? And so they fight, and Sigismund is able to practically kill Abaddon, even though Abaddon is juiced up on chaos roids. And Sigismund has the most badass final words of any character in any medium I've ever seen. I'm just googling it. So he almost kills Abaddon, and he's lying there in half, literally, and his top half, which for some reason he's still alive, and he says, what does he say? He says to Abaddon, "You will die as your weakling father did, soulless, honorless, weeping, ashamed." And then he died. And these words scar Abaddon for essentially the rest of his time as a character in 40k. He never forgets it. It's Sigismund is metal. He's really, really cool.
So he's your most hated, Abaddon.
Yeah, Abaddon is the worst. He should be written out of the story. And I don't like.
I think how the Chaos players would feel about that.
I mean, Chaos players live in basements. Who cares what they think? The average Chaos.
Strong words.
The average Chaos enjoyer is not giving Games Workshop that much money, so I think they can afford to get rid of him. Yeah. No, I think the people who give Games Workshop the most money are Sisters of Battle enjoyers, or
Mm,
Ultramarine and Joyous.
it's almost certainly Ultramarine enjoyers.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
cannot
don't think it's
see.
even close.
I cannot. I don't envision a world in which their sales of Tyranid models are anything to write home about, or um, Drukhari or anything like that. No, it's gonna be the Ultramarines and the Sisters of Battle for sure.
Hmm.
And the Sisters of Battle, it's understandable. They're amazing. They're pretty cool.
Mm.
I would let them.
People were like clamoring for them for years,
Yeah, damn right
and
they
lots of
were.
people had given up hope. Hmm?
Damn right they were. Yeah. I think at this point, Games Workshop is printing so much money that they're they're a bit lazy. I think they would see the clamor for Sisters of Battle and realize, oh, we can make a lot of money if we do these models, and then like, oh yeah, but we have all of these other things to get to. These people will wait and they'll pay us later. It's a perfect, yeah, it's a perfect business model. It works great. It's like we were chatting about the lion model when he
Hmm.
first came back into the lore, and how it was sold out. Um, but
Oh yeah. Hmm.
but I think that's intentional on their part to just make it clear. Hey, look, this is a really valuable model. So next time we stock up on it, you better get in there quick. Otherwise, you're not gonna get it.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
The economics of scarcity, I think.
There's a good channel that covers everything like that
Mm.
that Games Workshop does, almost religiously, you might say.
Oh.
And it's Discourse Miniatures.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so they cover and critique
So
the business practices of Gamers Workshop.
yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a so you know how for example for concert tickets there's a big scalpers market.
Mm.
People who will log into the servers or even set up bots or algorithms that will have multiple accounts logging into servers, buy up
Mm.
tickets, then resell them to the regular customer for you know 1.5 twice the price, whatever. Is there
Hmm.
a big market for that as far as Warhammer miniatures or just miniatures in general are concerned?
So there is a market for it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if I would call it a big market, but certainly you do see listings on eBay
Mm-hmm.
of items that have yet to come out, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, so
Presumably you have no interest in this. You're just buying it to resell.
oh,
But
it's not just yeah. So they'll buy items that haven't even come out. So pre-order them.
I assume they pre-order them.
Oh, okay.
But it's somewhat rare for Games Workshop to even do a pre-order. I mean, I think their first pre-order that they've ever done was only in the last year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's just, you know,
First
things
come.
drop. Yeah, things drop. The web service gets like choked up by the number of people and
Mm-hmm.
presumably bots
Mm-hmm.
um, trying to get access, and then within 10 minutes to an hour, it's all gone.
Mm.
Um, but it's only been relatively recently, like within the last 5 years, that Games Workshop actually announces that something will be released before
Mm-hmm.
they release it. It
Mm-hmm.
used to be they would just release it without telling anyone.
What? That was the thing they actually did. They just released
Oh yeah,
things.
for years they were known as like a company that didn't communicate with their customers. Like um, they just this was when they had their old CEO. I forget his name,
Mm.
um, but they were pretty infamous for not communicating with their customers. They would just release things,
Mm.
and I think the only way you'd ever find out is if you went into the shop or if you bought the White Dwarf magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I, I think that's the danger of being a monopoly. Essentially, is that
hmm,
you know that you have this dedicated base of customers that are going to buy your stuff anyway. So you you get callous about communicating with them because you think, why are we gonna waste time to update these people when they're gonna update themselves? They're gonna come and buy this stuff anyway. I think you see it in everywhere where you get some kind of monopoly. Although this is a great opportunity to mention your apostasy, your heresy. You've moved away from Warhammer slightly into BattleTech. So
Yes.
I have got two questions related to that. One, what spurred your love of BattleTech, and two, a broader question about the miniature hobby, as you mentioned at the start. You know, it's not just Warhammer. There's lots of different miniature making companies. Do you think that Games Workshop have a monopoly on the miniature scene even today, or are more companies or more universes like BattleTech becoming more and more prominent over time?
So to answer the first question, pretty sure I got into BattleTech through the video games. So I played Mech Assault 2 Lone Wolf on the original Xbox in, I don't know, whatever year that was, 2003 perhaps, 2004. And then more recently, immediately before getting into it, the miniatures, that is, I was in a severe drought of mech-related games, and it all just hit at once. I saw a news article saying that BattleTech was having a Kickstarter soon, and as a result, there was a sale of the previous batches of products, and I was like, "Oh, I'll pick some of them up." So I picked some up, and they were relatively cheap.
Relative to what?
But also
relative to what?
Well, relative to good old Warhammer, of course.
There we go.
A mere £22 to £27 per box, 4 models per box. And they were a nice little change in terms of painting from Warhammer. So then I bought another box and another box until I'd spent, I don't know, £150 over the course of half a year. So yeah, that got me into the miniatures for BattleTech. After which I then played some more of the video games. So it then became a closed loop of being in BattleTech. And the second question, what was that again? Remind me.
So, are other miniature companies like BattleTech or any of the other ones out there, are these? Do you see a sort of emergence of these companies recently? Is there a competitor for Games Workshop out there, or is it still largely a monopoly as far as the miniature hobby is concerned?
So I'd say it's largely a monopoly with slight geographical exceptions. So it used to be about 8 to 12 years ago in America, you could consider, I forget what company made this game, but it was a game called War Machine, and then later Hordes. So it was collectively referred to as Warma Hordes. And they had a good run and a very strong competitive scene, which then petered out for reasons I don't know, because I never really followed it. And then maybe a year and a half ago, they came back for their second edition of that game. And people were really excited because they were 3D printed models. So they were like, oh, it's going to be cheaper, it's going to be brilliant. And then the rules weren't brilliant. The models were apparently of quite a poor quality print. And they were also more expensive than the previous just plastic casts. So basically, just they shit the bed. And as far as I'm aware, that's basically killed their game. So they're no longer considered a competitor. But back 8 to 12 years ago, people would have absolutely said they're a competitor, because at that time, Games Workshop was in a massive slump. The other geographical exception is probably in Spain. This might be overestimating this game, but there's a game called Infinity by a company called Corvus Belli, and that's quite popular because it's produced in Spain. And Spain has a lot of miniature painter types for who approach it from like an artistic angle, and aesthetically it's very different from Warhammer. But in terms of like the size of the businesses, there's no competition. Games Workshop just dominates everything globally. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Not even with 3D printing, because so much of the energy around 3D printing goes into just reproducing things that Games Workshop makes. So on a conceptual level, you're still feeding the Games Workshop desire.
Yep. But it's interesting it's interesting to hear you talk about how Games Workshop's business practices have changed over the years, where they used to be very bad at communicating with the fan base, and ever since I've gotten into Warhammer, it seems like they're quite good, or at the very least they're okay about updating the fans and everything like that. So have you seen that? Are they now more social media savvy, more savvy about how they communicate with their fan base now than they were before?
I'd definitely say so, because I feel like, I'm probably going to get the exact number of years wrong, but I'm pretty sure Facebook had been out for about 5 or 6 years before Games Workshop even touched that as a method of communication. Wow. Maybe even longer. And to not capitalize on that is it's leaving money on the table, I guess.
Yeah. But I
so I would say, yeah, they've improved massively on their communication front.
Yeah, but I think when you don't have to compete, then adaptation is slow. If it happens anyway, because you don't need to. There's no one giving you that pressure to keep. There's no one there to outcompete or to pressurize you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good to see. Yeah. So that was the nice PG section of this discussion.
Okay.
No, don't get too excited. I'm not going to go into Slaanesh this time. As a Slaanesh enjoyer myself.
Allegedly.
Oh, I love. Oh. You didn't ask me who my favorite is. You didn't ask me who my favorite character is.
Who is your favorite character?
Fulgrim.
Oh.
Actually, no. I said that just to get that reaction from you.
Oh, well, mission accomplished.
No, that was one question I wanted to ask you. Who's your favorite Primarch? Or top 3? Because to be fair, there's 18, so it's top 1 can be hard to pick, but top 3.
So I should clarify that I've never read a single Horus Heresy novel.
That's fine.
So my answer will not be coloured by that. So if I was memeing, I would say Perturabo. But I'm not going to say that.
No one likes Perturabo.
I guess it's just got to be.
No. Perturabo counts. You've selected Perturabo. That's
I was locked in as number 1. Okay, fair enough.
No. You don't. No one wants to be stuck with Perturabo. You can. Yeah.
So the problem is we've already got so many eliminations, and those eliminations are Jagtai Khan.
Why? That's a bit. Are you?
Who is he? What is his character? I don't know anything about him.
Oh, okay, I see. So the only Asian guy you're disregarding. I see how it is. That's
okay. I didn't. If that's how you want to present that, then unfortunately.
No, so hold on. A bit of something on Jagtai Khan, and then I'll let you, and then you get on with your list. So the thing with Jagtai Khan is that what makes it. He's not even Asian. So the thing is, what makes him like an insensitive character is that he's basically the same ethnicity as the Emperor, like a proto-Turk or whatever, like some from like the Caucasus in like early stage humanity or whatever. But he's basically yellow facing. That's what makes him. It's like what is going on here? But yeah, no, I agree with you. Jagtai Khan is in the lore, he's basically your prototypical good guy who sees that both sides are bad, but then decides to side with the least bad group, the loyalists. But yeah, okay, not Jagatai Khan.
So then you've got to exclude the two covert operations guys, Conrad Kurz and Korax, someone or other.
Oh, the emo and the goth Primarchs, basically. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. I also don't know anything about them other than the Night Lord guy can see the future or something, and this makes him insane.
Yep.
Spoilers, maybe. I don't know.
No, that's not spoiler. And then the Conrad, and so that's Conrad Kurz, and then Corvix Corax can turn into a demon bird. That's there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. That's his special Primarch ability.
And then, well, Fulgrim's just not going to be on the favorites list. That's just, I don't know. I just don't find the Primarchs to be very compelling.
Mm-hmm.
Which ironically means, because he's the one that I've heard most about, I have to put Rowboat Girly Man as one of my favorites.
Rabute Guleman. That's interesting though, because lots of people, what they find most interesting about Warhammer are the Primarchs. So it's interesting to hear you say that they're not that compelling for you. That's great. Yeah.
So part of that is I heard like what the deal was with. So I remember watching a video, and the video was about the specifics around each Primarch being the Emperor, and basically the one that ruined it was Ferrus Manus. When I realized that this is literally just like Dragon Ball Z.
Pretty much.
And I was just like, oh, okay. Yeah. Could do without that. I prefer the small scale stuff, like the Inquisitor 28 size skirmishes and stuff. The actual Primarchs don't really do it for me.
Mm-hmm. So you're going to say Rabute Guliman. Anyone else in your top
Which
three?
means I need to find one more from the ether.
Oh, are you
so
gonna,
just to trigger people, I guess I'll just say I'll keep Perturabo, yeah.
Okay.
His whole deal that he's really annoyed because he takes on all the bad jobs, he never complains, and then nobody thanks him because he never asks anyone to thank him or something.
Basically, and no one loves him.
Okay, so yeah, he's staying on.
Which is understandable. He's not a nice guy.
Just like me, for real. Number 3. Magnus, who did nothing wrong.
So you discarded the yellow face guy and you've gone for the black face guy. That's an interest.
Is he? I thought he was like a red giant.
Oh no, that's not Magnus. That's Vulcan. Sorry. To all the Magnus enjoyers.
You're getting a bit eager there.
Yeah, to all the Magnus enjoyers, I went for the race card too quickly, for the banter. I'm sorry. No, Magnus is cool. I think he might technically be the strongest Primarch, simply because he's such a strong psychic boy. But why do you say Magnus?
Why? So is he, even though he's like in the present setting, is he actually like evil?
He's in a bit of a weird place. So he lost shards of his soul, which made him a lot weaker, and he's technically still a demon Primarch of Tzeentch, but he hasn't really manifested much or done much in recent Warhammer lore. But yeah, since he's still a demon Primarch, I think you could say he's still evil. Yeah, or he's currently evil. Yeah.
So your top 3 Primarchs then?
Well, I've got to give an honourable mention to everyone's favourite bird boy, Sanguinius, the the bestest boy of all the Primarchs. I mean, the guy has wings. He's really cool. My top three are going to be, in no particular order, are going to be the Lion, and then Fulgrim, and then don't laugh. He's great. He's great. Number three is hard. I'm going to go Rogo Dawn. Yeah.
Oh, the anti-Perturabo.
The anti-Perturabo and the dad of the best, well, one of the best factions in Warhammer, the Black Templars. Hey, man.
They do have a really cool model in the. I actually don't know what his rank is, but he's the big fat guy with the axe from that John Blanche piece of art.
Yeah. And I mean, they're the biggest. They might very well be the biggest. No, the Ultramarines probably have more bodies than them, but they're one of the biggest Space Marine chapters, and they have a pure purpose. What can you say? They're trying to save the Imperium in the name of the Emperor. Yeah. Exterminatus everything.
What more could you want?
Exactly. I don't support aliens or heretics.
Oh yeah.
I do not suffer them to live. Yeah, but
when you were talking about people who are a bit concerningly pro-Imperium, you were actually talking about yourself.
No, but yeah, I think that is. But then I did see that Games Workshop came out and released this long statement saying, "Hey, by the way, guys, Warhammer is for everyone." Trying to stop the Imperium enjoyers from enjoying the Imperium too much. Yeah, bringing it into the real world.
That's perhaps the best phrasing I've ever heard around that.
Yeah. I'm skirting the boundaries. Yeah.
You are. You're keeping a respectful distance.
I am. You have to ease them into your manifesto. You can't go in straight away. That's how you get good men to do nothing. Is that you make them comfortable first. Yeah. So I sent you a link to a channel of these two guys. Did you see it?
No, I did not see the link.
No, not on Discord. On WhatsApp.
Oh, let me just take a look at my phone.
Oh, I can send it.
When did you send this?
I can send it on Discord. These guys started. They started a podcast about 9 months ago, and they're going mental.
Oh, in fact, I did check out that link. Yeah, I remember. Okay. I liked their thumbnails.
You like their thumbnails?
I do like their thumbnails. Yeah.
You can't like anything about them. No. Yeah. No, they seem really.
Isyander and Koda or something like that.
Yeah.
And Koda.
Yeah.
Yeah. What thumbnail was it? Yeah, I felt a bit creeped out because I'd had the thumbnail for their video, The Sisters of Battle, and how they are constantly, that had appeared on my front page, and I didn't watch it, and then you recommended the channel to me, and I'm like, that's a bit creepy.
Sus. Yeah. No, they're quite good. I did wonder, looking at their channel and how quickly they've grown, whether or not they come from another like platform or medium, or whether they were known before that, because their growth is quite meteoric, quite interesting. But
yeah, their views are quite high for only starting 9 months ago. They've got, like I said though, they've got a strong thumbnail game.
They do. Intimidating.